Hola, my friends. I hope everyone is having a good evening. My my old this is my favorite chair in the world here. It's probably 30 years old, but it's comfy and I like it. It's my old man chair. Old man recliner. Well, I hope everybody's having a good night and has had a good couple of days. We are back to book 2 in our series. One more day of school. Can you guys believe it? Tomorrow is the last day of school for us. I think for most of, I guess most seniors, this has got to be a really awesome feeling, but a real scary feeling. I'm personally glad that my sons are not graduating. But I also think that things are getting better and people are learning and people are planning. And I think that by the time you guys get to school, for those seniors headed off to school in the fall, I do think that things are going to be a little bit better for you. So, anyways, we'll talk news later. I want to get some good reading done tonight. Probably going to read for about 45 minutes, and then we'll finish up with the news and this day in history and some very interesting stuff this day in history. So, 6 drives. I guess while I read, Stella's going to bite me and attack me. Thank you. She's been a little, I don't know what it was. Today she's been a little crazy. Ah! All right, so 6 drives our charcoal-colored SUV, which we saw for sale in a yard 2 miles down the road for $1,500, into town to buy groceries. While she's gone, Sam and I spar together in the backyard. The 3 of us have spent a week training, and I'm amazed how good Sam's gotten in the short amount of time. Despite his small size, he's a natural, and what he lacks in strength, he makes up for in technique, which is much better than my own. At the end of each day, as 6 and I retreat to the corners of the living room or to our empty rooms, Sam stays up studying fighting techniques on the internet. What 6 learned from Katerina and I learned from Henry is a method of combat that loosely resembles a blend of jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, karate, and bojuka? Here on Earth. I'm not sure what bojuka is. What's bojuka? And bojuka here on Earth, a system designed to be committed to muscle memory, including grappling, blocks, fluid body movements, joint manipulation, and strikes to vital joints of a person's central nervous system. For 6 and me, having the benefit of telekinesis, it's a matter of sensing the subtlest of motions in a radius around us, then reacting to them. Sam, however, needs to keep his enemies in front of him. While 6 ends each session without a mark, Sam and I both finish with new scrapes and bruises, but despite them, Sam never loses passion or drive. Today is no different. He comes at me, chin chucked in his eyes. Ah! Jeez, chin tucked and eyes alert. He throws a right cross that I block, then a left kick, and I counter by sweeping his right leg out from underneath him, sending him crashing to the ground. He stands and charges me again. Though he connects often, with my strength, his shots aren't very effective. But sometimes I feign the pain to boost his confidence. 6 gets home an hour later. She changes into shorts and a t-shirt and joins us. We drill for a while, slowly doing the same block, counter, click, kick over and over until it becomes second nature. But while I take it somewhat easy against Sam, 6 goes all out against me, thrusting me backwards with such force and that the wind is knocked out of me. Sometimes I get irritated, but I can still tell I'm getting better. She's no longer able to deflect my telekinesis with a casual flick of the wrist. She's now required to throw her whole body into it. Sam takes a break and watches from the side with Bernie Kosar. You're better than that, Johnny. Show me the good stuff already, she says after she upends me when I throw a sloppy roundhouse kick. I charge her, closing the gap between us in a tenth of a second. I throw a left hook, but blocks it. She takes hold of my bicep, using my momentum to toss me over her head. I brace myself for the painful landing, but she doesn't let go of my arm, instead twisting me back over my shoulder so my feet hit the ground. She wraps her arms around my arms, and my back is smashed against her chest. She sticks her face against mine and playfully kisses me on the cheek. Before I can react, she kicks the back of my knees, and my butt hits the grass. My arms are swept out from under me, and I'm flat on my back. Six easily pins me, and she's so close I can count the hairs of her brow. Butterflies flood my stomach. Okay, Sam finally interrupts. I think you got him pretty good. You can let him up now. Six's smile widens, and mine does too. We stay that way for a second longer before she leans back and lets me up by my shoulders. My turn with Six, Sam says. I take a deep breath and shake my arms to rid them of their jitters. She's all yours, I say, making a beeline towards the house. John, Six says as I reach the back door. I turn, trying to tamp down the strange fluttery sensation at the sight of her. Yeah? We've been in the house for a week now. I think it's time to lose whatever sentimentality or fear you've been holding on to. For a second, after what just happened, I think she's talking about Sarah. The chest, she says. I know, I say, and I enter the house, sliding the door behind me. Uh-oh, it's time to open the chest. I close my room and I pace, taking deep breaths, trying to figure out what just happened in the yard. I go to the bathroom and I splash cold water on my face. I stare into the mirror. Sarah would kill me if she caught me looking at Six like that. I tell myself again that I have nothing to worry about because Lorians have one person for life. If Sarah is my one love, then Six is simply a crush. Back in my room, I lie on my back, fold my hands across my stomach, and close my eyes. I take deep breaths, holding each one in for a 5 count before exhaling out of my nose. 30 minutes later, I open the door and I creep down the hall, hearing Sam and Six milling about in the living room. The only place I could find to hide my chest in the house was a utility closet on top of a hot water heater. I struggled getting it out, making as little noise as possible. Then I tiptoe back into the room, gently closing and locking the door behind me. Six is right. It's time. No more waiting. I grab hold of the lock. It quickly warms, then squirms against the palm of my hand, taking an almost liquid form as it snaps open. The inside glows brightly. It's never done that before. I reach in and I remove the coffee can containing Henry's ashes and his letter. Still in its sealed envelope. I close the lid and I relock it. I know it's stupid, but I feel I'm somehow keeping Henry alive, not reading the letter he had left behind. Once the chest is open and once the letter is read, he'll have nothing left to tell me, nothing left to teach, and then he'll become nothing more than a memory. I'm not ready for that yet. I get why he's feeling that. I get that. I open the closet where my clothes sit in a pile, and I bury the coffee can and letter under them. Then I grab the chest and I leave the room, hovering in the hallway to listen to Sam and Six streaming a show online called Ancient Aliens. Sam is asking Six about all the alien theories he knows, and Six quickly confirms or denies them based on the teachings of Katerina. Sam furiously scribbles answers in his legal pad, which then breeds more questions that Six patiently answers. Or she shrugs her shoulders. Sam eats this up, drawing parallels to what he already knows. The pyramids of Giza, they were built by Lorik, partly us, but mostly the Magadorians. What about the Great Wall of China? Humans. Roswell, New Mexico. You know, I've asked Katerina that once, and she had no idea, so I don't know either. Wait, how long have the Magadorians been coming here? Almost as long as we have, she says. So, like, this is a war between you two. Is it new? Not necessarily. What I know is that both sides have traveled to Earth for thousands of years. Sometimes we were here at the same time, and from what I understand, much of it was spent on friendly terms. But then something happened that ruined the relationship, and the Magadorians left for a very long time. Beyond that, I don't know much. And I have no idea when they started coming back. I cross the living room and I plop the chest in the middle of the dining room floor. Sam and Six glance up. Six grins, again giving me strange flutters. I smile back, but it feels insincere. Sorry. I figure we might as well open up this thing together. Sam begins rubbing his hands with a crazy look in his eyes. Gee, Sam, I say, you look like you're about to murder somebody. Oh, come on, he says. You've been teasing me with this chest for almost a month now. And I've been patient. I've kept my mouth shut out of respect for Henry and everything. But how often do I get to see the treasures from an alien planet? I just think about how the guys at NASA would die to be sitting where I am right now. You can't blame me. You can't blame me for being so into this. Would you be mad if this whole time it's been full of nothing but dirty laundry? Alien dirty laundry, Sam asks sarcastically. I laugh, then reach down and I grab hold of the lock. My hand instantly glows when touching the cold metal. And the lock warms again, shaking and twisting in my grip, protesting the ancient powers that kept it closed. When it clicks open, I remove the lock, set it aside, and place my hands on the chest top. Six and Sam both lean forward in anticipation. I lift the lid. The chest is yet again ablaze with light that hurts my eyes. The first thing that I do is remove the velvet bag holding the 7 orbs that make up Lorien's solar system. I think of Henry and how we watch the light glow and pulsate on Lorien's core, showing that the planet is still alive, albeit hibernating. Albeit, Stella. I put the bag in Sam's hand. All 3 of us peer down into the chest. Something else is lit up. What is that glowing? Six asks. No idea. I never did that before. She reaches down and she plucks a rock from the bottom of the chest. It's perfectly round crystal, no bigger than a ping pong ball. When she touches it, the light brightens even more. Then it fades and begins to slowly pulse. We watch the crystal transfixed by the glow. Then suddenly, Six lets it drop to the floor. The crystal ceases to pulse and resumes its steady glow. Sam reaches down to pick it up. Don't, Six yells. He looks up, confused. Something doesn't feel right about it, she says. What do you mean, I ask. Feels like pinpricks against my palm. When I grabbed hold of it, I got a really bad feeling. This stuff is my inheritance, I say. Maybe I'm the only one allowed to touch it. I bend down and I carefully pick up the glowing crystal. Within seconds, it feels as if I'm holding a radioactive cactus. My stomach compresses and acid climbs up my throat. And I instantly toss the crystal onto a blanket. I swallow. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe we don't know how to use it. I mean, you said Henry kept you from seeing inside because you weren't ready. Maybe you're still not ready. Well, that would be pretty lame, I say. This sucks, Sam says. Six walks into the kitchen and returns with 2 towels and a plastic bag. She carefully grabs the glowing crystal with a towel and drops it into the bag, which then she wraps in a second towel. You really think that's necessary? I ask, my stomach continuing to gurgle. She shrugs. I don't know about you, but the feeling I got when I touched it was bad news. Better safe than sorry. What's left in the chest is everything comprising my inheritance, and I'm not really sure where to start. I reach in and I grab an object I've seen before, the oblong crystal Henry used to spread the lumen from my hands to the rest of my body. It comes alive, and it bathes the living room in a bright light. The crystal's center begins swirling with what looks like smoke, twisting and turning back on itself, as I have seen it do before. Now we're talking, Sam says. Here, I say, giving it to him. The crystal falls inert when it transfers hands. I've already seen it. Also inside the chest are a few smaller crystals, a black diamond, a collection of brittle leaves bound in twine, and a star-shaped talisman, the same pale blue as the pennant around my neck, which tells me it's laurelite, the rarest gem found only in Lorien's core. There is also a bright red oval bracelet with an amber-colored stone in the shape of a raindrop. Oh, my goodness, excuse me. What do you think that is, Sam asks, pointing to a flat circular stone, the same milky white color as a pearl that's stuck in the corner. Don't know, I say. How about that, he asks, this time pointing at a small... How about that, he asks, this time pointing at a small dagger that looks to have a blade made of diamond. I lift it from the chest. The handle fits snug in my hands as though it was made for it. And I suppose it was. The blade isn't more than 4 inches long, and just by seeing the way the light glints above the edge, I can tell it's far sharper. Oh my goodness, excuse me, than any razor one might find on Earth. What about that thing? Sam asks again, pointing to something else. And I have no doubt he'll ask the same question over and over until he's inquired about every object. Here, I say, setting the dagger down and removing the 7 orbs in an effort to keep him occupied. Check this out. I blow on them and the tiny lights flicker across their surfaces. Then I toss them up in the air and they instantly spring to life, spinning in orbit around the orange-sized sun in the center. It's Lorien solar system, I say. 6 planets, 1 sun. And this one here, I add, pointing to the 4th orb, which remains the same various shades of ashen gray as the last time I'd seen it, is Lorien, and it looks as it looks today at this very moment. The glow at its center is what is left. Wow, Sam says. NASA dudes would be crapping themselves right now if they were looking at this. And watch this, I say, illuminating my right hand. I sweep the light over the orb, and all at once the surfaces change from its depressing gray tones to vibrant blues and greens of forests and oceans. This is the planet as it was the day before the attack. Wow, Sam says again, staring in awe with his mouth hanging open. And while the rotating planets have him transfixed, I look back in the chest. Do you know what any of this is or what it does? I ask 6, who doesn't respond. I turn and see she's just as amazed as Sam by the solar system spinning 2 feet above the floor. Since Henry had told me they were part of my legacy, which means they weren't locked in the chest. I had wrongly assumed she'd seen them before, but it makes sense she hasn't. They can only be activated after the first legacy develops. 6, I say again. She comes back to reality and turns to me, and I find myself looking away once she makes eye contact. Do you know what any of this stuff is? Not really, she murmurs. Running her hands over the stone surfaces. This is the healing stone Henry and I used at the school, she says, pointing out at a flat, black rock I've seen before. Then she freezes, a faint gasp escaping her lips. Sam and I exchange a confused expression. She lifts a pale yellow stone, its surface waxy and smooth, from the chest and holds it up. Oh my God, she marvels, flipping it over. Tell me, I prod. She looks me right in the eyes. Zitharisis, she says. It comes from our first moon. She brings the small stone to her forehead, squeezing her eyes shut. The faint yellow shade of the stone darkens slightly. She opens her eyes and she hands the stone to me. I frown and take them from her, my fingertips grazing the palm of her hand. Sam inhales sharply. What the? He looks terrified, groping for me like he's blind. What's going on? I ask, slapping Sam's hands away from my face. You're invisible, Six says quietly. I look down at my lap and it's true. I'm completely vanished. I drop Zitharis to the ground, or onto the ground like a hot potato, and instantly become visible. The Zitharis, she explains, allows one guard to transfer a legacy to another, but only for a short period of time. An hour, I think, maybe two. I can't say for sure. All you have to do is charge it up by focusing your energy on the stone. Put it on your forehead, and bam, it's ready to go. Well, that's pretty cool. Charge it like a battery, Sam asks. Exactly. And it won't start until using the legacy until it's touched again. Excuse me. I look at the stone. Sweet. Looks like somebody other than you is taking a trip into town. And somebody other than you is going to be resistant to fire, she says playfully. If you're nice to me, then it definitely is a possibility, I say. Sam picks up the stone and he clenches his entire body in deep concentration. Nothing happens. Oh, come on, he says to the stone. I promise to use it for the power of good. No girls' locker rooms, I swear. Sorry, Sam, Six says. I'm pretty sure this stuff only works on us. Huh, that's pretty funny. For some reason, I think today my cat has decided that she needs to go to the loony bin. She has been chasing her tail and flipping over and just knocking crap all over the place all day. Okay. So Sam sets the Zitharis down, and we dig through the rest of the chest to see if anything else is activated by touch. But after an hour of studying and holding all 17 artifacts, blowing hot air on them, squeezing them tightly, nothing else engages aside from the glowing crystal wrapped in the towel. The larger oblong crystal with a smoky center, and the solar system still rotating above us. The healing stone, however, does cure the cuts and bruises Six has been stamping my body with. Man, I've waited most of my life to open this thing, and now that I have, a lot of it seems useless to me, I say. I'm sure their uses will reveal themselves in time, Six assures me. Things like this need to be slept on. It's usually when they've left your mind completely that answers finally come. I nod, looking back at everything lying on the chest. Six is right. Around the chest, excuse me. Six is right. Forcing an answer only guarantees that no answer will come. Yeah, maybe some of it only activates with further legacies. Who knows? I say with a shrug. I put everything back inside, feeling compelled to keep the glowing crystal covered with the towel. I leave the solar system out, which continues to circle its circular march. I close and I lock the chest and I carry it down the hall. Don't be discouraged, John, Six says behind me. As Henry said, you're probably not ready to see it all yet. Are we doing on time? We're doing all right. We're really doing good reading. I think we can probably get a good chunk into this chapter, maybe. That last chapter was a longer chapter than the other ones we've been reading. This is kind of a long chapter too. But all right, let's keep reading. We're on chapter 14. So I can't sleep tonight, partly because of the chest. For all I know, one of the gems inside could give me a power to morph into some different creature like Bernie Kosar. Or one could create an iron barrier around me, impossible to penetrate by enemy attack. But how will I know without Henry? I feel sad and defeated. But mostly, I can't stop thinking about Six. I can't stop her I can't stop picturing her face hovering inches above mine, or the sugary scent of her breath, or the way the setting sun has made her eyes glow. In that moment, I had an uh, irrepressible, desire to stop training and to simply wrap my arms around her and squeeze her down onto me. A pang of longing to do that, even now, hours later, has anchored itself in my heart. And that's what's really keeping me up. The overwhelming guilt I feel about my attraction to her. The person I'm supposed to be longing for is Sarah. There's too much on my mind to expect sleep. Too many emotions. Pain, desire, confusion, guilt. I lie another 20 minutes before giving up on sleep. I whip aside my blanket and I pull out a pair of pants and gray t-shirt. Bernie Kosar follows me from the room and down the hallway. I poke my head into the living room to see if Sam's asleep. He is, wrapped up in a blanket on the floor like a worm in a cocoon. And I turn and I walk back. Six's room is directly across the hall from mine, and her door is ajar. I stand looking at it, and I hear Six rustle on the floor. John, she whispers. I cringe, and my heart immediately races. Yeah, I reply. What are you doing? Nothing, I whisper. I can't sleep. Come in, she says. I push open the door, and her room is pitch black. I can't see anything. Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine, I say. I barely turn on my lumen, and the faint glow is like a nightlight. I keep my eyes off her and on the carpet. Just too much on my mind, you know. I was maybe thinking of going for a walk or run or something. Well, that's kind of dangerous, don't you think? Don't forget you're on the FBI's 10 most wanted list with a fat reward on your head, she says. I know, but it's still dark out, and you could make us invisible, couldn't you? I mean, that's if you wanted to come along. I increase the lights on my hands, and I can see Six sitting on the floor with a couple blankets over her legs, and her hair is pulled back with loose strands falling around her face. She shrugs, then tosses the blankets aside and stands. She's wearing black yoga pants and a white tank. I can't stop myself from staring at her bare shoulders. I look away when I'm hit with the absurd suspicion that she can feel my eyes on her. Sure, she says, pulling the band from her hair and rewrapping her ponytail. I always have a hard time sleeping, especially on the floor. I hear that, I say. Do you think we'll wake up Sam, though? I shake my head. She responds with a shoulder shrug and lifts her hand. I take it immediately. Six disappears, but my hand still glows, and I can see her foot imprints in the carpet. Then I extinguish my hand, and we tiptoe from the room down the hallway. Bernie Kosar follows, and when we reach the living room, Sam lifts his head from the floor and stares right at us. Six and I stop. I hold my breath to remain silent. I think about Sam's obvious crush on Six and how he'd be devastated if he saw us holding hands. Hey, Bernie, he says groggily, then drops his head and rolls over with his back facing us. He remains silent for a few seconds, and then Six leads us across the living room and into the kitchen to leave through the back door. The night is warm and filled with the sounds of crickets and swaying palm fronds. Palm fronds, huh? I inhale deeply as Six and I walk hand in hand. I find it odd that Six's hand seems so small and delicate in mine, despite her amazing physical strength. I love the way it feels. Bernie Kosar races through the heavy brush lining the gravel drive while Six and I stroll silently down its center. It dead ends into a narrow road and we turn left. I can't stop thinking about what you went through, I say finally. Excuse me. But what I would rather tell her is that I can't stop thinking about her. Being held prisoner for half a year, having to witness Katerina being, well, you know what I mean. Sometimes I forget it happened, and other times I can think about it for days, she replies. Or it's all I can think about for days. Yeah, I say, drawing out the word. I don't know. I guess it goes without saying that I miss Henry, and it kills me that he's gone. But after hearing your story, I realize how lucky I am. I mean, I got to say goodbye to him and everything. Plus, he was there while I went through my first legacies. I can't imagine going through that alone like you did. It really was really hard, and that's for sure. I could have used her the day I started to gain my invisibility legacy. I could have used her even more for girl talks when I was growing up. They were pretty much our parents on Earth, right? Yeah, I say. What I find funny is that now that Henry's gone, the things I remember most about him are the things I usually hated, like when he would leave some places behind and we drive for hours and hours down a highway headed someplace I never even heard of, and when all I wanted to do was just get out of the car. Now the conversations we had on those trips are the ones I remember the most. Or when we started training in Ohio, and he made me do the same thing over and over again. I hated it so much, But now I can't look back on any of it without smiling. Like one time after my telekinesis finally came, we were training in the snow and he was throwing all these objects so I could learn to deflect them. I had to redirect them back at the source. He heaved a meat tenderizer really hard at me, and I used its own velocity to whip it back at him. And at the very last second, he had to jump headfirst into the snow to keep from being hit. I say, smiling to myself. The pile of snow was actually a snow-covered rosebush with all of its thorns. You would not believe the noise he made. Stuff like that I won't ever forget. A car approaches on the side of the road, and we scoot off into the ditch until it passes. It whips into the stone driveway of a nearby house. A man in a black leather jacket jumps out. He pounds on the front door, yelling at whoever is inside to open up. Jesus, what time is this, Six? Six moves towards the man in the house. My hand is still in hers. Does it matter? As we creep within 10 feet of him, the smell of alcohol hits me. He stops pounding his fist against the door to yell, "You better goddamn open this door, Charlene." Oh, you don't want to know what I'm going to do. Six sees the revolver in his waistband, the same time I do, and she squeezes my hand. Screw this guy, Six whispers. He pounds again and again until the lights in the front window turn on. Then, through the door, a woman shouts, "Get out of here. Just get out of here, Tim." "Open the door right now," he yells back. "Or else, Charlene, or else, you hear me?" We're within touching distance of him, and I can see the faded tattoo. Below his left ear is a bald eagle holding a snake in its talons. She yells back, her voice shakier than before. "Just leave me alone, Tim. Why are you here? Why won't you just leave me alone?" He pounds and he yells even harder. I'm about to put him in a chokehold and squeeze the bald eagle and snake right off his neck when I see the gun slowly crawl up his lower back until it floats away from him in Six's invisible hand. She puts the barrel of the gun up against the back of the man's head and buries it in his brown hair. She cocks the hammer with a loud click. The man stops pounding on the door. He stops breathing too. Six pushes the gun even harder into his skull and then pushes it stiffly to the right, spinning the man around. The sight of the floating gun in front of his face makes him go white. He blinks and shakes his head violently, expecting to wake up in his bed or in a back alley or whatever bar he had come from. Six moves the gun side to side, and I wait for her to say something, to really spook the hell out of him. But instead, she suddenly turns the gun towards his car. She shoots, and a radius of broken glass appears on the windshield. He screams shrilly and bursts into tears. Six slams the gun at his face again, and aims the gun at his face again, and he quiets down, letting a stream of snot hit his upper lip. "Please, please, please," he says. "I'm sorry. God, I'm going to leave right now. I swear I'm leaving." Six cocks the hammer again, and I see a curtain in the front of the window move to the right and expose the face of a large blonde woman. I squeeze Six's hand, and she squeezes back. "I'm leaving right now. I'm leaving. I'm leaving." The man sputters to the gun. Six aims at his car again and empties the chamber with a loud bang. The rear driver's side window explodes into 1,000 pieces. No, okay, the man shouts. There, suddenly a wet spot on the inner thigh of the man's jeans. Six motions the gun at the front window, and he makes eye contact with the blonde woman. And I'll never come back. I'll never, ever come back. The gun bobs to the left twice, indicating that he can leave. The man rips his car door open and dives in. Stones spit out from underneath the tires as he reverses out of the driveway and then barrels down the road. The woman in the window continues to stare at the handgun that's floating next to her front door. And that's when Six flings it over the house with such force that it's sure to last in the next county. We run back to the road, and then we continue to run until there isn't a house in sight. I wish I could see Six's face. I could do that kind of stuff all day, she finally says. It's like being a superhero. Humans do love their superheroes, I say. Do you think she'll call the police? Nah, she's probably going to think that it was all a bad dream. Or the best dream she's ever had, I say. Our talk turns to all the good things we could do for Earth with our legacies if we weren't busy being hunted or hated. How did you train yourself anyways, I ask. I can't imagine learning the things I did if it hadn't been for Henry pushing me so much. What other choice did I have? How are we doing on time here? We're doing all right on time. What other choice did I have? Either we adapt or we perish. So I adapted. Katerina and I trained for years before we were captured, but obviously never once my legacies developed. When I finally got out of that cave, I promised myself that her death wasn't going to be in vain. The only way to do that was to seek revenge. So I picked up where we left off. It was hard at first, especially on my own, but little by little I began to learn and grow stronger. Besides, I've been on my own more time than you. My legacies came sooner than yours, and I'm older than you. You know, I say, my 16th birthday, or at least the day I celebrate my 16th birthday with Henry, was 2 days ago. John, why didn't you tell us, she asks, then lets go of my hand and playfully shoves me away, making me instantly visible. We could have celebrated. I smile and I reach for her, feeling blindly in the dark. She takes my hand and interlocks her fingers into mine, allowing my thumb to rest over hers. The thought of Sarah comes into my head, and I find myself instantly pushing it out. So what was she like, I ask. Katerina. A moment of silence passes. Compassionate. She was always helping others, and she was funny. We used to joke and laugh a lot, which probably seems hard to believe, seeing how serious I usually am. I chuckle. I didn't say it, you did. But hey, no changing the subject. Why didn't you say anything about your birthday? I don't know. I actually forgot about it until yesterday. Then it just seemed pointless with everything else going on. It's your birthday, John. It's not pointless. Every birthday any of us are lucky to have because it's for celebration, considering what's hunting us. And anyways, had I known, I might have even taken it easy on you in training that day. Yeah, you must feel terrible for beating up a guy like that on his birthday, I say, and then nudge her. She nudges me back. Bernie Kosar leaps from the brambles and trots beside me. Several burrs are stuck to his fur like Velcro. I let go of Six's hand to pluck them off. We reach the end of the road, and tall grass and a winding river lie ahead of us. We turn around and amble back towards the house. Does it bother you that you never got your chest, I ask after a few minutes of silence? In a way, I think it fueled me that much more. It was gone. There was nothing I could do about it. So I did what I thought was smart, and I chose to focus on finding the rest of you. I just wish I could have found number 3 before they did. Well, you found me, and I can't imagine I would have survived this long if you hadn't, or Bernie Kosar for that matter, or even Sarah. As soon as I say Sarah's name, Six's grip loosens a little. Guilt rises in my chest as we make our way back to the house. I do love Sarah, but it's hard to imagine a life with her when I'm so far away, on the run, with no sense of where the future will take me. The only life I can imagine right now is the one I'm living, the one with Six. Ooh! We reach the house, and I find myself wishing our walk wasn't over. I try to stall, slowing my steps, hovering at the end of the driveway. I only know you as Six, I say. Did you have a name? Of course I did, but I didn't use it very often. I didn't go to school like you. Well, I did for a little while, but then they decided I was better off staying home. So what was your name? Marin Elizabeth. Whoa, really? Why do you sound so surprised? I don't know. Marin Elizabeth seems kind of dainty and feminine. I think I expected you to have something more like a mythic god, like Athena or maybe Xena, like a warrior princess, or maybe even Storm. Storm would have suited you perfectly. Well, we're at 2 pages and we're done with this chapter. Man, we're cruising tonight. Six laughs, and the sound of it makes me want to pull her to me. Of course I don't, but I want to, and maybe that's what's most telling. I'll have you know, I used to be a little girl who once wore ribbons in her hair. Yeah, what color? Pink. I think I'd pay money to see that. Forget it. You don't have enough. I'll have you know, I say, mimicking the same playful voice she just used. I have a whole chest of rare gems at my disposal. Just point me in the direction of a pawn shop. She laughs and then says, I'll keep my eyes open for one. We continue to stand at the mouth of our driveway, and I look up at the stars and the moon, which is 3/4 full. I listen to the wind, and I see Six's feet on the gravel as she shifts her weight from one leg to another, and I take a deep breath. I'm really glad we went for a walk, I say. So am I. I look where she's standing, wishing she were visible so I could read her expression. Could you imagine if every night was like this, living your own life without having to worry about what or who might be lurking out of sight, without always having to peer over your shoulder to see if you're being followed? Wouldn't it be amazing to be able to just forget, just once, what's peeking over the horizon? Of course it'd be nice, she says, and it will be nice when we finally have that luxury. I hate what we have to do. I hate the situation we're in, and I wish that it were different. I look for worrying in the sky, and I release her hand. She makes herself visible, and I grab her by the shoulders, and I turn her towards me. Six inhales deeply. Just as I duck my head towards hers, an explosion rocks the back of the house. Six and I scream and tumble to the ground. A plume of fire lifts up over the roof, and flames instantly spread inside. Sam, I yell. 50 feet away, from 50 feet away, I rip the front windows out. They shatter against the concrete walkway. Smoke comes billowing out. Before I know it, I've just burst into a dead sprint. I take a deep breath and leap, crashing into the house and splintering the door from its hinges. Woo! That's a good place to stop. What a good little cliffhanger. Uh-oh, Stella. All right, my friends. So, not a ton in the news today, but some very good news. I think it's extremely good news. So, and some good news, some bad news, and some weird news. So, I guess the first thing is this. Officially, for the first time in 3 months, Stella, there is not a single person in a hospital in the Capital District being treated for COVID. So that means that, number one, there are still people that are sick, but they are at home. They are not sick to the point where they need to be hospitalized. So that's pretty good, I know out here, phase 3 began Friday. And I think that phase 3 actually begins tomorrow. I don't even know what that means anymore. But what I do know what it means out here is that restaurants are opening up for indoor seating. So there's outdoor seating, there's indoor seating, but I still think they can only open for 25% capacity, which, hey, you know what? Okay, not bad. So if you can normally sit 100 people, you can sit 25. So, hopefully you've got your indoor seating and you've got your takeout or whatever that is. But, excuse me. And I especially think it's got to be tough for the restaurant business to really know what to order. A couple times in Middleburg, a couple of our places, because I've mentioned this a bunch of times, we try to order out once a week. Might not be the absolute healthiest option, but both the boys and I are pretty active. The boys are especially active. So, ordering out once a week is not going to kill us. If we did it 4 nights a week, it'd be bad. Anyway, so a couple times we've called and they've said, yeah, right now all we can make is pizzas. We're just wiped out. So I think if you're a restaurant owner right now, it's got to be tough, or any type of food service place, to really be able, especially if you're a place that does fresh food, to really, know what to order on a daily basis. But anyways, so Capital District, nobody being treated in a hospital for COVID as of today. That's great. Doesn't mean there aren't going to be new cases. Doesn't mean more people might not go into the hospital, right? We might have more people go in the hospital, but that's a pretty good sign. Now, that's here. 21 states are seeing massive spikes. Arizona, Texas, and Florida are now up to 2,000 new cases a day. So, this was us 3 months ago. And 18 other cases or states are not seeing 2,000 cases a day, but they are seeing a uptick in cases. And things are, the worst that they've ever been in these 18 states. So what I fear is a coming back here, right? And I don't know how we protect ourselves from that. I really don't. But it definitely gives me a little bit of hope. Like maybe if this is truly the way things are, we're technically September 9th, I think is the first. I think September 9th is the first day of classes. So, 3 months, almost 3 months. I don't know, guys, that might be doable, It might be. I'm not going to get my hopes up too high, but I think there's a shot. Then the other here's the other thing, is that so apparently Vice President Pence today made some remarks that, I don't know, something like the battle with coronavirus is over or something like that. But wait a minute. 2 of our largest states, right? The biggest state, biggest population, California. Second largest state is Texas. I think the third largest state, I think it is Florida, and I think we're 4th. But I could be population-wise, not geographically. Anyway, so 2 of our largest states, as a matter of fact, 2 and 3, right? 2 and 3 in regards to population, now have 2,000 plus people a day coming forward and saying they're sick. That's not including people that aren't coming forward. That's not including people that are getting sick but aren't going to get tested and aren't going to get treatment. Some people are just staying at home and riding it out, right? So, it's funny, as I've talked to people, like some people have said, I got the flu real bad in February. And they've kind of been going like, maybe I had it. And a lot of people out there just, I think, want to get tested. And I do too. I'd love to get tested. Did I have it and my body fought it off? That would make me feel, a lot better moving forward. But piece of ice. But I don't know. So anyway, so the White House is saying something like the battle is over. Vice President Pence, something like that. However, they're also reporting that 3 states are pretty much out of control, and another 18 are getting there. So kind of conflicting reports coming from the White House, right, from our federal government. The thing I saw in the local news that I thought was very touching, and maybe some of you guys know her, Mrs. Griesmer or Miss Griesmer, Lynette Griesmer, was a kindergarten teacher in Middleburg, in Mohonasen. Sorry, I live in Middleburg. And apparently she made a promise to her kindergarten class that when they were seniors, she would bring them something. And she did that today. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I think it was on Channel 13. Yeah, Channel 13 News, WNYT, if you want to go take a look at it. Very, very touching little segment that they did. All right, so how we doing we're doing okay on time. We're actually doing great. Stop it, Siri. We're doing great on time. So this day in history, on this day in 1858, then Representative Lincoln announces his candidacy to run for the senator of Illinois and gives the House divided speech, right? A house divided shall fall. And he's talking about our country and the division that slavery has created in our country. This speech, along with the Lincoln-Douglas debates, the two of them have for that senatorial seat in Illinois, it propels him to the national spotlight. Whoa, look at this dude, right? Look at this guy. This guy is for real. He's in the House of Representatives. And he goes from the House, and he wins the presidency in 1860. 1884. This is pretty cool. On this day in 1884, the first roller coaster in America opens, the Cyclone on Coney Island. So on this day in 1884, so 100 and what would that be? 136 years ago, the first roller coaster on Coney Island in New York City. On this day in 1903, the Ford Motor Company becomes the Ford Motor Company. The Ford Motor Company becomes incorporated. Still, a powerhouse in automotives around the world. On this day in 1933, the FDIC is created, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So, what is the FDIC? Let's pretend. I have $100,000 in the bank. Pretend. And the bank gets robbed. Okay? Or not even. Let's say the bank goes out of business. Something happens and the bank goes out of business. Whoa, where's my $100,000? Well, the federal government requires banks to carry insurance. FDIC, this corporation, a federal organization, provides insurance for me. So if something happens to the bank, the federal government gives me the money, right? So when you go to your bank, you've probably seen before, there's a sticker right on the front of the branch or the whatever you go into. And if you have a bank account and your bank is not part of FDIC, you need to withdraw your money and you need to go find a new bank. Okay, Stella? On this day, and this is kind of cool, and I wonder if these two things are linked. So on this day in 1963, Valentina Tereshkova becomes the first woman in space. She is a cosmonaut. So she is she is a citizen of the Soviet Union, and she is the first woman to go into space. And here's another thing. Also on this day, the movie Grease opened. Whoa, with Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta. But here's the thing that I think the other one's linked to. On this day in 2012, China sends their first woman into space. So I wonder if China said, well, hey, this is the anniversary of, why don't we do this? Because I have a feeling it probably was. Other countries, I think, seem to care and pay attention to that kind of stuff more than we do. So, well, anyways, my friends, it's a great day. Tomorrow is our last day, and it's been a wacky year, right? It's been a wacky year to say the least, but we are going to make it. We are literally this close to the finish line. We still have some running to go, right? We still have to take our victory lap, and we still have to get through all this stuff. But I think we're getting there, and there's some light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully the summer, just gives everybody the ability to get outside and be able to, do some social distancing and be able to spend some time and really appreciate all those things that we've lost over the past 3 months, which really, it's 3 months. It's not that long of a time. I know it feels like it, but it really isn't. So anyways, run the marathon, my friends. Keep running it. Don't sprint. Do not sprint. We're so gosh darn close. Thanks for reading with me tonight, and I'll see you guys. Today is Tuesday, so I'll see you guys on Friday.